quiet moment, when the noise of the world fades, there is a question that whispers beneath everything you do. What do you truly want? Not what society told you to want, not what fear convinced you to settle for, but what you deeply, undeniably desire. Because hidden behind that question lies the most powerful truth you may ever discover. Your thoughts are not just thoughts, they are forces, invisible yet incredibly real. They shape your decisions, they influence your actions, and ultimately, they determine your destiny. Most people go through life unaware of this power. They react, they drift, they accept circumstances. But a small number of individuals learn something different. They learn that the mind, when directed with intention, becomes a magnet for opportunities, for ideas, for wealth, for transformation. And once you understand this, everything begins to change. Let me tell you a story about a man who had nothing. No money, no connections, no special advantages. But he had one thing, a burning desire. His name was Edwin Barnes, and he made a decision that most people would laugh at. He decided that he would become the business partner of one of the greatest inventors in history, Thomas Edison. Not work for him, not meet him, not learn from him. He decided he would work with him. Now think about that for a moment. Imagine having no resources, no plan, no clear path, and still deciding something that bold, that unreasonable, that impossible. Most people would call it a fantasy. But Barnes didn't treat it like a dream. He treated it like a decision. And that is where everything begins. Not with resources, not with luck, but with decision. A clear, definite, unwavering decision. Barnes didn't know how he would get there, but he knew one thing: he would not stop. He traveled without enough money, took risks, faced uncertainty, and eventually he stood in front of Edison himself. Not as someone asking for a job, but as someone who had already decided who he was becoming. Years later, Edison said something fascinating about that moment. He said there was something in Barnes's eyes, something that revealed absolute certainty. Not hope, not wishful thinking, certainty. And that certainty created opportunity. At first, he didn't become a partner. He got a small job, insignificant work, low pay. From the outside, nothing had changed. But inside, everything was building. Because he wasn't working for a paycheck, he was positioning himself, watching, learning, waiting. And most importantly, he never let go of the vision. Months passed. Nothing happened. No breakthrough, no big opportunity. This is where most people quit. This is where reality starts to feel heavier than dreams. But Barnes didn't quit, because his desire was stronger than his circumstances. And then opportunity appeared, but not in the way he expected. It rarely does. Edison had created a new invention, a dictating machine, and no one believed in it. Salespeople ignored it. They thought it was useless. But Barnes saw something different. He saw his chance. He stepped forward and said he could sell it. He believed in it when no one else did. And that belief changed everything. He sold it. Not just a little, he sold it successfully. So successfully that Edison gave him the opportunity to distribute it nationwide. And just like that, the man who started with nothing became a business partner. Not because of luck, not because of connections, but because of one thing, a decision backed by relentless persistence. Now pause for a moment, because this is where most people misunderstand success. They think it's about timing or talent or intelligence, but over and over again, the real pattern is different. Success begins as an idea, a decision, a vision held long enough with enough belief to become reality. But there is another story, a different kind of story, one that explains why most people fail. It's the story of a man who came incredibly close to success and walked away. 3 feet from gold. Yes, literally he had found gold. He invested time, effort, money, and then suddenly the gold disappeared. So he quit. He sold everything, walked away, and gave up. But the story doesn't end there. The person who bought his equipment brought in an expert. The expert studied the land, calculated, analyzed, and discovered something shocking. The gold wasn't gone. It was just 3 feet away from where the man stopped digging. 3 feet. That's all. This is not just a story about mining. It's a story about life. Because most people quit too early. They stop when things get hard. They stop when results don't come fast enough. They stop when doubt gets louder than belief. And they never realize how close they were. So here is the truth, the uncomfortable truth. Success is not for the smartest, not for the luckiest, not even for the most talented. It is for those who refuse to quit. Those who keep going even when there is no visible progress. Those who continue when logic says stop. Those who hold on when everything feels uncertain. Because often, success is just on the other side of persistence. Just beyond the moment where most people give up. And as you continue this journey through these principles, you will begin to see a pattern, a system, a way of thinking that transforms ordinary people into extraordinary results. But it all begins here, with a simple question. What do you truly want? And more importantly, are you willing to commit to it no matter how long it takes? Because once you answer that, everything changes. Take a slow breath and allow your mind to settle. Because what you are about to understand is not just another idea. It is the beginning of everything. There is a force, quiet, invisible, yet more powerful than talent, more reliable than luck. It is desire. Not a wish, not a preference, not something you say casually, but a deep, burning, undeniable desire. The kind that stays with you even when everything else fades. Most people believe they want success. They say they want wealth, freedom, a better life. But if you observe closely, what they really have is a weak desire, a surface-level intention, something they would like, but not something they are committed to. And that difference is everything. Because a weak desire produces weak action, and weak action produces weak results. But a burning desire changes you. It sharpens your focus. It fuels your persistence. It reshapes your identity. It becomes something you carry with you every moment, every decision, every step forward. Think about this carefully. Every great achievement, every fortune, every breakthrough began as a desire, an idea held long enough and strong enough to become real. Let's return to something important. That moment when a person decides, this is what I want. Not maybe, not someday, but now. That moment is the true beginning. But here is where most people go wrong. They think desire alone is enough. It's not. Desire must be defined, clarified, strengthened, focused. Because a vague desire creates a vague life. So instead of saying, I want to be successful, you must ask, what does success look like specifically? How much money? What kind of lifestyle? What kind of person do you become? Clarity creates power, because when the mind knows exactly what it is aiming for, it begins to organize everything around that target. Now listen carefully, because this is one of the most important principles you will ever hear. Your desire must become so strong that it leaves no room for doubt. Not because doubt disappears, but because your desire becomes stronger than your doubt. There will be moments when things don't work, when progress slows, when results don't match effort. And in those moments, only one thing determines whether you continue or stop: the intensity of your desire. A weak desire will say, maybe this isn't for me. A strong desire will say, I will find another way. That is the difference. Now let's go deeper, because desire is not just emotional, it is strategic. If you truly want to activate desire, you must connect it to something meaningful, something personal, something that matters deeply to you. Not what others expect, not what looks impressive, but what feels true. Because when your desire is aligned with your identity, it becomes unstoppable. Let me ask you something. Why do you want what you want? Is it freedom, security, respect, peace of mind, a better future for your family? Find your reason, because your reason is the fuel behind your desire. And without fuel, even the strongest engine stops. Now imagine this. You wake up every day with a clear vision in your mind. You know exactly what you are building, exactly what you are moving toward. And every action you take, no matter how small, is connected to that vision. That is what desire does. It gives direction to your energy. Without it, you drift, you react, you wait. With it, you move, you decide, you create. Now, here is something most people never realize. Desire can be trained, strengthened, developed. How? By repetition, by focus, by reminding yourself daily what you are working toward. This is not motivation, this is conditioning. You are training your mind to stay locked on to a single outcome. And over time, something begins to happen. Your thoughts become consistent, your actions become aligned, your decisions become clearer. And slowly, your external world begins to reflect your internal focus. This is how desire becomes reality. Not instantly, but inevitably. Now there is one more step, a step that separates dreamers from those who actually achieve. You must commit. Not casually, not temporarily, but fully. You must decide this is happening. And once you decide, you remove the option of quitting. You may change your approach, you may adjust your strategy, you may learn, grow, evolve, but you do not stop. Because desire, when combined with commitment, becomes power. And that power, when sustained over time, becomes results. So as you sit here now, in this moment,
I want you to ask yourself one question, not casually, but honestly. What do I truly want? And once you have your answer, don't rush. Stay with it. Feel it. Strengthen it. Because this right here, is where everything begins. In the next part, you will discover something even deeper, something that transforms desire into belief. Because desire starts the journey, but faith is what carries you through it.
Take a moment. Slow your breathing and allow your mind to become still, because what you are about to understand is the invisible bridge between desire and reality. Desire alone is not enough. You can want something deeply, you can think about it, you can even work toward it. But if, deep inside, you do not believe it is possible, you will stop. Not always consciously, but inevitably. This is where faith comes in. Not blind belief, not wishful thinking, but a trained, deliberate, controlled state of mind. Faith is the ability to believe in something before you can see it. And most people misunderstand this. They think belief comes after results, but in reality, belief comes first. Think about that. Every major achievement, every breakthrough, every transformation started with someone believing before there was evidence. So the real question is not, is it possible? The real question is, can you believe it long enough until it becomes real? Because your mind is always listening. Every thought you repeat, every emotion you feel, every idea you focus on is being absorbed by something deeper, your subconscious mind. And your subconscious does not question, it does not analyze, it does not argue. It accepts, it absorbs, it acts. Which means whatever you feed it consistently becomes your reality. If you feed it doubt, it produces hesitation. If you feed it fear, it produces avoidance. If you feed it limitation, it produces small results. But if you feed it belief, real, repeated, emotional belief, it begins to reorganize your entire behavior. This is how faith works, not magically, but systematically. Now here is the key. Faith is not something you either have or don't have. It is something you build. And the way you build it is through repetition. Let me explain. Every time you repeat a thought, you strengthen it. Every time you feel an emotion, you deepen it. And when thought and emotion combine, they create belief. So if you repeatedly tell yourself, I can't do this, I'm not ready, this is too hard, your mind accepts it, and your life begins to reflect it. But if you deliberately choose different thoughts and repeat them consistently, something powerful begins to happen. You start to reprogram your mind. This is not motivation, this is conditioning. You are literally training your brain to see yourself differently. Now imagine this. You wake up every day and instead of uncertainty, you feel a quiet confidence. Not loud, not forced, but steady. You begin to expect progress. You begin to expect opportunity. You begin to expect success. That expectation is faith. And over time, your behavior changes. You take more action. You hesitate less. You recover faster from failure. You stay consistent even when results are slow. Because deep inside, you no longer question whether it will happen. You only focus on how.
This is the shift, the invisible shift that separates those who try from those who achieve. Now let's go deeper, because there is a technique, one of the most powerful techniques for building faith. It is called auto-suggestion, which simply means you speak to your subconscious mind on purpose. You choose the thoughts, you choose the beliefs, you choose the identity that you want to install, and you repeat them daily, calmly, consistently. Not once, not occasionally, but over and over until they feel natural. Because what feels natural becomes automatic, and what becomes automatic controls your life. So instead of letting random thoughts shape your future, you take control. You begin to say things like, I am building something meaningful. I am becoming more focused every day. I find solutions. I stay committed. I create results. At first, it may feel unfamiliar, maybe even uncomfortable, but that's normal, because you're interrupting old patterns and replacing them with new ones. Stay with it, because repetition creates familiarity. Familiarity creates belief. Belief creates action, and action creates results. Now understand this clearly. Faith does not remove difficulty. It does not guarantee speed. It does not eliminate failure. What it does is keep you moving. It keeps you steady when things feel uncertain. It keeps you focused when distractions appear. It keeps you grounded when doubt tries to return. And most importantly, it keeps you consistent. Because success is not built in moments of intensity. It is built in long periods of consistency. And consistency requires belief. So as you sit here now, I want you to become aware of the thoughts you repeat every day. Are they building you or limiting you? Are they expanding your vision or shrinking it? Because whether you realize it or not, you are already programming your mind. The only question is, are you doing it on accident or on purpose? Now is the moment to decide, to take control, to choose your thoughts, to shape your beliefs, to build your faith. Because once faith is established, something remarkable happens. Your desire is no longer fragile. It becomes stable, grounded, resilient. And from that place, you are ready for the next step. The step where you learn how to directly influence your subconscious mind with precision. Because in the next part, you will discover exactly how to do that, through repetition, through suggestion, through control. Desire started the journey. Faith made it real inside your mind. And now it's time to take control of the mechanism itself.
Take a slow breath and notice something simple. Your mind is always listening. Even now, as you sit here, something inside you is receiving every word, recording it, absorbing it, responding to it. Most people think they control their thoughts, but in reality, their thoughts are controlling them. Random ideas, old beliefs, past experiences, all playing in the background, shaping behavior, decisions, and results without awareness. This is why two people can have the same opportunity, the same resources, the same environment. Yet one succeeds and the other hesitates. Because the difference is not outside, it is inside. And that internal difference is shaped by repetition. This is where autosuggestion begins. Autosuggestion is the process of intentionally feeding your mind the thoughts you want it to believe. Not once, not casually, but consistently. Because your subconscious mind learns through repetition. It does not respond to logic, it responds to frequency. The thoughts you repeat the most become the thoughts you believe. And the thoughts you believe become the actions you take. So if you want to change your life, you must change what you repeat. Now imagine this. Every day, without realizing it, you are already using autosuggestion. When you say, "I'm not good at this," "I always fail," "This never works for me," you are programming your mind. And your mind accepts it. Not because it is true, but because it is repeated. So the real power is not in avoiding negative thoughts. It is in replacing them. Deliberately, calmly, persistently. Now, let's make this practical. Because this is where transformation begins. There are 3 elements that make autosuggestion effective. First, clarity. You must know exactly what you are programming. Not vague ideas, not general wishes, but clear statements, clear identity, clear direction. Instead of saying, "I want success," say, "I am building a disciplined, focused life." Instead of, "I hope things improve," say, "I improve my results every day through consistent action." Clarity gives direction. Second, emotion. Your subconscious mind responds to feeling. Words alone are weak, but words combined with emotion become powerful. So when you repeat your statements, do not rush. Feel them. Even if they are not fully true yet, allow yourself to experience them. Because emotion accelerates belief. And belief drives action. Third, repetition. This is the most important part. Not intensity, not perfection, but consistency. You repeat your chosen thoughts every day. Morning, when your mind is quiet. Night, when your mind is relaxed. And over time, something begins to shift. The thoughts feel more natural. The resistance fades. The identity begins to change. And without forcing it, your behavior follows. Now understand this clearly. Autosuggestion is not about lying to yourself. It is about directing yourself. You are not ignoring reality. You are shaping it. Because your current reality is already the result of past thoughts. And your future reality will be the result of present thoughts. So the question becomes, what are you choosing to repeat? Now, let's go deeper, because there is a powerful technique that amplifies everything. Visualization. When you combine words with images, your mind responds faster. So as you repeat your statements, see it. See yourself focused. See yourself working. See yourself improving. See yourself achieving. Not perfectly, but consistently.
because the subconscious mind does not distinguish clearly between imagined experience and real experience. And this is where things begin to accelerate. You are no longer just thinking, you are experiencing. And experience creates belief faster than anything else. Now, there is something important to understand. At the beginning, this process may feel unnatural. You may hear a voice that says, "This isn't real. This won't work." That voice is just old programming. Do not fight it. Do not argue with it. Just continue. Because repetition always wins. The mind adapts. The resistance fades. The new pattern forms. And one day, without noticing exactly when it happened, you will respond differently. You will think differently. You will act differently. And others may call it confidence, or discipline, or growth. But you will know it started here, with a decision to take control of your thoughts. Now, take a moment and choose one statement. Something simple, something clear, something meaningful. And repeat it slowly in your mind. Not rushed, not forced, just steady. Because this is how you begin. And as you continue this journey, you will learn how to combine this mental control with knowledge. Because in the next part, you will discover something essential. Not all knowledge leads to success. But the right knowledge applied correctly changes everything.
Take a breath and let this idea sink in slowly. Knowledge alone is not power. You've probably heard the phrase, "knowledge is power," but in reality, that's incomplete. Because knowledge, without direction, without application, without purpose, is just potential. And potential does nothing on its own. Look around you. There are people who know a lot. They read books. They consume information. They understand concepts. Yet their lives remain the same. At the same time, there are others who may not know everything, but they know exactly what to use and how to use it. And they move forward. They build. They create results. So what's the difference? Specialized knowledge. Not general information, not random facts, but focused, purpose-driven, applied knowledge. Knowledge that serves a clear goal. Because once your desire is defined, once your direction is clear, you no longer need everything. You only need what matters. This is where clarity becomes powerful again. Instead of asking, "What should I learn?" you begin to ask, "What do I need to learn to move one step closer to my goal?" That question changes everything. Because now you are not collecting information, you are building capability. Now imagine this. You decide exactly what you want. You define your path. And then you begin to gather the knowledge that directly supports that path. Not distractions, not noise, not endless consumption, but targeted learning. This is how value is created. Because value comes from solving problems.
and problems are solved through applied knowledge. So the more clearly you understand what problem you solve, who you solve it for, and how you solve it better, the more valuable you become. Now, here is something important. You do not need to know everything. In fact, some of the most successful people do not have all the knowledge themselves, but they know how to access it. They build networks, they collaborate, they learn from others, they connect ideas. Because intelligence is not just what you know, it's how you use what you know, and how you connect to what you don't. This is where many people get stuck. They wait until they feel ready, until they feel they know enough, until they feel certain. But readiness is an illusion, because learning never ends. So instead of waiting to be ready, you begin moving while learning. You take action and adjust. You learn something, apply it, refine it, repeat. This cycle is where real growth happens. Now, let's go deeper, because there are two types of knowledge. The first is passive knowledge, information you consume but do not use. The second is active knowledge, information you apply, test, and integrate into your life. Only one of these creates results: active knowledge. So every time you learn something new, ask yourself, how will I use this? If you cannot answer that question, the knowledge will fade. But if you apply it, even in a small way, it becomes part of you. Now consider this carefully. Your value in the world is directly connected to your ability to apply knowledge. Not just understand it, not just explain it, but use it. This is what turns ideas into income. Now, there's one more shift. Instead of chasing knowledge randomly, you begin to build a system, a personal system of growth. You identify your goal. You identify the skills required. You identify the knowledge needed. And then you move step by step. Focused, intentional, consistent. This removes overwhelm, because now you are not trying to learn everything. You are learning the right things. Now imagine how this changes your life. Instead of feeling scattered, you feel directed. Instead of feeling lost, you feel clear. Instead of consuming endlessly, you create progress. And over time, your confidence grows. Not because you know everything, but because you know enough to move forward. That is power. Now pause for a moment and reflect. What are you currently learning? Is it aligned with your goal? Or is it just filling time? Because your future is shaped by what you focus on today. And focus must be intentional. As you continue, you will discover something even more powerful. Because knowledge alone is not enough. You must learn how to use it creatively, how to take what you know and turn it into something new. Because in the next part, you will explore the workshop of the mind, the place where ideas are born, shaped, and transformed into reality. Your imagination.
Take a slow breath and allow your mind to open. Because now, we step into the place where everything begins to take form. Your imagination. Not as something childish, not as something abstract, but as a tool, a powerful, practical, essential tool. Because every achievement, every invention, every business, every transformation was once just an idea, an image in someone's mind. Before it existed in the world, it existed in imagination. This is the workshop of creation. Now, listen carefully, because this is where many people underestimate themselves. They believe imagination is something you either have or you don't. But that's not true. Imagination can be developed, strengthened, directed, just like a muscle. And the more you use it, the more powerful it becomes. Now, there are two types of imagination. The first is synthetic imagination. This is where you take existing ideas, existing knowledge, existing experiences, and combine them in new ways. You connect things, you improve things, you refine things. This is how most progress happens. The second is creative imagination. This is deeper. This is where ideas seem to appear without effort. Moments of insight, moments of clarity, moments where something just clicks. You've probably experienced this before. An idea comes to you suddenly. A solution appears. A new perspective forms. That is your creative imagination at work. And both types are essential. Now, here is the key. Imagination is activated by desire. When your desire is strong, your mind begins searching, looking for connections, looking for solutions, looking for possibilities. And imagination is how those possibilities take shape. So, if your desire is weak, your imagination stays quiet. But if your desire is intense, your imagination becomes active. This is why clarity matters. This is why focus matters. Because your mind responds to what you care about most. Now, let's make this practical. Instead of waiting for ideas, you begin to create space for them. Moments of quiet, moments of reflection, moments where you step away from noise. Because imagination does not thrive in distraction, it thrives in stillness. So give yourself time to think, time to explore, time to ask, what is possible here? Now combine this with knowledge. You take what you have learned and you begin to reshape it. How can this be improved? How can this be applied differently? What problem can this solve? This is where ideas are born. Not from nothing, but from connection. Now understand something important. Your first ideas will not be perfect. They may feel incomplete, unclear, uncertain. That's normal. Because imagination is not about perfection, it's about creation. You generate ideas first, then you refine them. And over time, with repetition, your ability improves. Now imagine this. You begin to trust your ideas, not blindly, but enough to explore them. You write them down, you think about them, you test them, and slowly they become clearer, stronger, more practical. And eventually, one of them becomes real. This is how innovation happens, not in one moment, but through continuous creation. Now, there is something deeper. Imagination is not just about ideas, it is about identity. You begin to imagine who you are becoming, not just what you will have, but who you will be. Focused, disciplined, capable. And the more clearly you see that version of yourself, the more naturally you begin to move towards it.
because your actions follow your self-image. So, if you imagine yourself as someone who quits, you will quit. If you imagine yourself as someone who persists, you will continue. This is why imagination is powerful. It shapes both your ideas and your identity. Now, take a moment and picture your goal. Not vaguely, not quickly, but clearly. See the environment, see the progress, see the results. And more importantly, see yourself in that reality. How do you think? How do you act? How do you respond? Stay there for a moment, because this is not just imagination. This is preparation. You are preparing your mind to recognize opportunities, to take action, to follow through. Now, understand this clearly. Imagination without action remains a dream. But imagination combined with action becomes reality. So as you move forward, do not ignore your ideas. Capture them, develop them, test them. Because one idea applied consistently can change everything. And in the next part, you will learn exactly how to do that. How to take your ideas and turn them into structured action. Because planning is where imagination becomes real. This is where vision becomes execution.
Take a breath and bring your attention back to something simple. Ideas alone are not enough. You can have clarity. You can have desire. You can even have belief, but without action, nothing changes. This is where most people stop. They think, they imagine, they learn, but they do not organize their thoughts into a plan. And without a plan, energy becomes scattered. Effort becomes inconsistent. Progress becomes slow or invisible. This is why planning matters. Not perfect planning, not complicated planning, but organized planning. A clear structure that turns intention into movement. Now understand this clearly. Your first plan will not be perfect. It may fail. It may need adjustment. It may feel incomplete. That is not a problem. Because planning is not about getting it right the first time. It is about starting. You create a plan. You act on it. You observe the results. You adjust. And through this process, the plan improves. This is how progress is made, not through perfection, but through iteration. Now imagine this. You have a clear goal. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, you break it down, step by step. What needs to happen first? What comes next? What can you do today? This is where clarity becomes action, because large goals become manageable when divided into small steps. And small steps, taken consistently, create momentum. Now here's something important. Planning is not just about tasks, it is about direction. You are deciding where your time goes, where your energy goes, where your focus goes. Because if you do not decide, something else will. Distractions, noise, other people's priorities. So planning becomes a form of control. You are taking ownership of your time. Now let's go deeper, because there is a powerful concept that changes everything. You do not have to do everything alone. In fact, you shouldn't. The most effective plans often involve other people, collaboration, support, shared knowledge.
This is where the idea of a mastermind begins. A group of individuals aligned toward a goal, sharing ideas, refining strategies, supporting progress. Because when minds come together, new solutions appear. Faster, stronger, more effective. So as you build your plan, consider this. Who can help you? Who has knowledge you don't have? Who can support your growth? Because progress accelerates when you stop trying to do everything alone. Now there is another truth. Not all plans succeed. Some will fail. Some will not work. Some will lead nowhere. And that is part of the process. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is feedback. It shows you what doesn't work. It pushes you to adjust. It refines your approach. So instead of stopping, you adapt. You change the plan, but you keep the goal. This is critical. Most people, when their plan fails, they give up on the goal. But successful people do the opposite. They keep the goal and change the plan, again and again, until something works. Now imagine how this changes your mindset. Instead of fear of failure, you see opportunity. Instead of hesitation, you move forward, because you understand that every step, even the wrong ones, bring you closer. Now take a moment and think about your current goal. Do you have a plan? Not in your head, but clearly defined, written, structured, actionable. If not, this is where you begin. Start simple. Write down your goal. Break it into steps. Choose one action you can take today, and then take it. Because clarity without action is wasted, but clarity combined with action creates progress. Now, as you continue this journey, you will face something inevitable. Moments where you must choose between comfort and growth, between delay and decision. Because in the next part, you will discover something powerful, the role of decision, why some people hesitate and others move forward, and how one decision can change everything.
Take a slow breath and notice something. Right now in your life, there are decisions waiting. Some small, some significant. Some you've been delaying for a long time, and that delay has a cost. Not always visible, not immediate, but real. Because every time you hesitate, you pause your progress. Every time you delay, you extend the distance between you and your goal. This is the hidden danger of indecision. It feels harmless, it feels safe, but in reality, it keeps you stuck. Now understand this clearly. Successful people do not necessarily make perfect decisions, but they make decisions. Quickly when possible, carefully when needed, and once they decide, they move. Unsuccessful people often do the opposite. They overthink, they hesitate, they wait for certainty, and certainty rarely comes. So they stay where they are, not because they lack ability, but because they delay action. Now here is the truth. Indecision is not just a habit, it is a form of fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of making the wrong choice. So instead of choosing, the mind looks for safety. It gathers more information. It waits for the perfect moment. It tells itself, not yet. But not yet often becomes never. Now imagine this. You remove the need for perfect certainty. You accept that some decisions will not be perfect, and instead of waiting, you act. Immediately, your life begins to move, because progress comes from motion, not from thinking alone. Now, there is something important to understand. Not all decisions are equal. Some require deep thinking, some require time. But many decisions, the ones that move your life forward, are simple. Start, try, adjust. And yet, these are the ones most people delay. Why? Because action creates exposure. Once you act, you can no longer hide. Results appear, feedback appears, reality appears, and that can feel uncomfortable. But discomfort is part of growth. Now let's go deeper. There is a pattern found in almost every successful individual. They make decisions and they stand by them. Not blindly, but with commitment. They do not change direction based on every opinion. They do not stop because of temporary doubt. They decide and they follow through. This is power, because consistency comes from committed decisions. Now compare that to someone who changes their mind constantly. One day they're focused, the next day distracted. One week they're committed, the next week uncertain. Progress becomes impossible because direction keeps shifting. Now take a moment and think about your own decisions. Where are you hesitating? What have you been delaying? What do you already know you need to do? Stay with that question, because often you already know the answer. You just haven't acted on it. Now here is a simple shift. Instead of asking, "What if this goes wrong?" ask, "What happens if I do nothing?" Because doing nothing is also a decision, and often it is the most expensive one. Now imagine this. You begin to act, not recklessly, not blindly, but decisively. You choose a direction, you take a step, you adjust as needed, and slowly your confidence grows, not because everything works perfectly, but because you trust yourself to respond. This is the real power of decision. It builds self-trust, and self-trust eliminates hesitation. Now there is one more truth. Decision alone is not enough, because after the decision comes resistance. Moments where it feels difficult, moments where it feels slow, moments where quitting seems easier. And this is where most people stop, not at the decision, but after it. So something else is required, something stronger, something that keeps you moving even when motivation fades. That something is persistence. And in the next part, you will discover exactly how to build it. Because decision starts movement, but persistence is what carries you to the end. Take a slow breath and bring your attention to something simple. Starting is not the hardest part. Deciding is not the hardest part. Even planning is not the hardest part. The hardest part is continuing. Continuing when results are slow. Continuing when motivation fades. Continuing when doubt returns. This is where most people stop. Not because they are incapable, but because they are inconsistent. They begin with energy. They feel inspired. They take action. But when reality becomes difficult, they slow down, they hesitate, they stop. And in that moment, the difference is revealed. Because success does not belong to those who start. It belongs to those who persist. Persistence is not intensity. It is not short bursts of effort. It is steady, repeated, unwavering action over time. It is showing up again and again, even when you don't feel like it. Now, understand this clearly. Persistence is not something you wait for. It is something you build. Just like belief, just like discipline, you train it. And it begins with a decision. A decision that says, "I will not stop." Not because it is easy, not because it is fast, but because it matters. Now, imagine this. You remove the option of quitting. You may slow down, you may adjust, you may change your approach, but you do not stop. Immediately, your mindset changes. Challenges become temporary, obstacles become part of the process, and time becomes your advantage. Because most people do not stay long enough to succeed. They quit early, they switch paths, they lose focus, and they never experience what persistence creates. Now, let's go deeper. Persistence is fueled by something. It does not exist on its own. It is powered by desire, strengthened by belief, guided by planning. And when all of these come together, persistence becomes natural, not forced, not exhausting, but consistent. Now, there will be moments where everything feels slow, where progress is not visible, where effort feels disconnected from results. These moments are critical, because this is where most people quit. They assume it's not working. They assume it's not for them. They assume they should stop. But what they don't see is that progress is still happening, under the surface. Skills are developing. Understanding is growing. Momentum is building, even if results are not visible yet. This is why persistence matters, because it allows time for results to catch up with effort. Now, imagine this. Instead of reacting to slow progress, you expect it. Instead of feeling discouraged, you stay steady. Instead of quitting, you continue. And slowly, everything begins to shift. Opportunities appear. Confidence increases. Results start to show. Not all at once, but gradually. This is how success actually happens. Now, there is something important. Persistence does not mean repeating the same mistake. It means continuing while improving. You observe, you adjust, you refine, but you keep moving. This is intelligent persistence, because effort alone is not enough. Effort must evolve. Now, take a moment and think about your current path. Where have you stopped before? Where did you give up, even though you were close? Stay with that thought, because awareness is the first step to change. Now, imagine yourself differently. You continue. You stay consistent. You move forward even when it's uncomfortable. And over time, that identity becomes real. You become someone who finishes, someone who follows through, someone who persists. And that identity changes everything. Because once persistence becomes part of who you are, success is no longer uncertain. It becomes inevitable. Not because of luck, not because of timing, but because you stay in the process long enough for results to appear. Now, understand this final truth. Many people are not far from success. They are simply not persistent enough to reach it. They quit too soon. They turn back too early. They quit when they are close. But you choose differently. You continue. You stay. You persist. And because of that, you arrive. In the next part, you will discover something powerful. You are not meant to do this alone. There is a force that multiplies your effort, strengthens your thinking, accelerates your results. The power of the mastermind.
Take a slow breath and consider this idea. You are not meant to succeed alone. Not because you are weak, but because growth accelerates when minds connect. There is a force, quiet, invisible, yet incredibly powerful. A force created when two or more people align around a shared purpose. This force is the mastermind. It is not just a group, not just a network. It is a coordination of energy, of knowledge, of perspective. When individuals come together with intention, something new is created, a collective intelligence. Ideas expand, solutions appear faster, blind spots become visible, because what one mind cannot see, another can. Now think about this. Every great achievement, behind it, there is rarely just one person. There are influences, mentors, partners, collaborators, people who contributed ideas, insight, guidance, and together they created something greater than any one of them could alone. This is the power of the mastermind. Now understand this clearly. This is not about having many people around you. It is about having the right people. People who challenge you, people who support your growth, people who think differently. Because growth does not come from comfort, it comes from exposure to new ideas, new perspectives, new ways of thinking. Now imagine this. You are facing a challenge. Alone, you see limited options. But within a mastermind, solutions multiply, because each person brings a different way of thinking, and from that diversity, clarity emerges. Now there is something deeper. A mastermind does not just give you ideas, it gives you accountability. When you are alone, it is easy to delay, easy to justify inaction. But when others are involved, when expectations exist, your standards rise. You follow through, you stay consistent, you take action. Because now you are not only responsible to yourself. This creates pressure, but the right kind of pressure, the kind that pushes you forward. Now there is another layer, energy. Every person carries energy, their mindset, their attitude, their belief. And when you surround yourself with people who are focused, disciplined, driven, that energy influences you. Without effort, you begin to think differently, act differently, expect more from yourself. This is why environment matters, because whether you realize it or not, you are always being influenced. So the question becomes, are you choosing your environment or accepting it? Now imagine intentionally building your circle, not randomly, not by convenience, but by design. You seek people who are growing, people who are building, people who are moving forward. And together, you create momentum. Now understand this. You do not need a large group. Even 2 or 3 aligned individuals can create a powerful mastermind. What matters is alignment, a shared vision, a shared commitment, a shared standard. Now take a moment and reflect. Who are you currently surrounded by? Do they challenge you? Do they support your growth? Do they move forward or stay the same? Because your environment shapes your results. Now this does not mean you disconnect from everyone. It means you become intentional. You choose who influences your thinking. You choose who you learn from. You choose who you grow with. And that choice changes everything. Now there is one final truth. A mastermind is not just about receiving, it is about contributing. You bring value. You share ideas. You support others. Because when everyone contributes, everyone grows, and the collective becomes stronger. Now imagine yourself in that environment. Focused minds, clear direction, shared progress, and feel the difference. Because that difference is real. It accelerates everything. Your thinking improves, your actions sharpen, your results expand. This is the hidden multiplier. Now, as you continue this journey, you will go even deeper, because everything you have learned so far connects to something powerful.
your subconscious mind and your brain, the systems that process, store, and execute everything. And in the next part, you will understand how they truly work. Because once you understand the system, you gain control.
Take a slow breath and consider this idea. You are not meant to succeed alone. Not because you are weak, but because growth accelerates when minds connect. There is a force, quiet, invisible, yet incredibly powerful. A force created when two or more people align around a shared purpose. This force is the mastermind. It is not just a group, not just a network. It is a coordination of energy, of knowledge, of perspective. When individuals come together with intention, something new is created, a collective intelligence. Ideas expand, solutions appear faster, blind spots become visible, because what one mind cannot see, another can. Now think about this. Every great achievement, behind it, there is rarely just one person. There are influences, mentors, partners, collaborators, people who contributed ideas, insight, guidance. And together, they created something greater than any one of them could alone. This is the power of the mastermind. Now understand this clearly. This is not about having many people around you. It is about having the right people. People who challenge you, people who support your growth, people who think differently. Because growth does not come from comfort. It comes from exposure to new ideas, new perspectives, new ways of thinking. Now imagine this. You are facing a challenge. Alone, you see limited options. But within a mastermind, solutions multiply. Because each person brings a different way of thinking. And from that diversity, clarity emerges. Now there is something deeper. A mastermind does not just give you ideas, it gives you accountability. When you are alone, it is easy to delay, easy to justify inaction. But when others are involved, when expectations exist, your standards rise. You follow through, you stay consistent, you take action. Because now you are not only responsible to yourself. This creates pressure, but the right kind of pressure. The kind that pushes you forward. Now there is another layer, energy. Every person carries energy, their mindset, their attitude, their belief. And when you surround yourself with people who are focused, disciplined, driven, that energy influences you. Without effort, you begin to think differently, act differently, expect more from yourself. This is why environment matters. Because whether you realize it or not, you are always being influenced. So the question becomes, are you choosing your environment or accepting it? Now imagine intentionally building your circle, not randomly, not by convenience, but by design. You seek people who are growing, people who are building, people who are moving forward, and together you create momentum. Now understand this. You do not need a large group. Even 2 or 3 aligned individuals can create a powerful mastermind. What matters is alignment, a shared vision, a shared commitment, a shared standard. Now take a moment and reflect. Who are you currently surrounded by? Do they challenge you? Do they support your growth? Do they move forward or stay the same? Because your environment shapes your results. Now this does not mean you disconnect from everyone. It means you become intentional. You choose who influences your thinking. You choose who you learn from. You choose who you grow with. And that choice changes everything. Now there is one final truth. A mastermind is not just about receiving. It is about contributing. You bring value. You share ideas. You support others. Because when everyone contributes, everyone grows, and a collective becomes stronger. Now imagine yourself in that environment.
focused minds, clear direction, shared progress. And feel the difference, because that difference is real. It accelerates everything. Your thinking improves, your actions sharpen, your results expand. This is the hidden multiplier. Now, as you continue this journey, you will go even deeper, because everything you have learned so far connects to something powerful. Your subconscious mind and your brain, the systems that process, store, and execute everything. And in the next part, you will understand how they truly work, because once you understand the system, you gain control.
Take a slow, deep breath and allow everything you've heard so far to settle. Because now, you are not at the beginning anymore. You have moved through desire, through belief, through control of thought, through action, decision, persistence, and now you arrive at something deeper. Something less visible, but incredibly powerful. Your intuition. What some call the sixth sense. It is not something mystical, not something distant. It is something you have already experienced. A feeling, a knowing, a quiet signal that guides you. Sometimes it tells you to move forward. Sometimes it tells you to stop. Sometimes it shows you an idea before logic can explain it. This is not random. It is the result of everything working together. Your subconscious mind, your accumulated knowledge, your experiences, your patterns, all processed and delivered to you as insight. This is why the more you train your mind, the clearer your intuition becomes. Because a focused mind produces clearer signals. A distracted mind produces noise. Now imagine this. You have built discipline. You have built belief. You have built persistence. And now you begin to trust yourself. Not blindly, but steadily. You begin to recognize when something feels right, when something feels off. And instead of ignoring it, you listen. This is alignment, where your thoughts, your actions, and your internal signals begin to work together. Now there is something important. Intuition does not replace thinking. It enhances it. It gives you an edge, a sense of direction when logic alone is not enough. Now, as powerful as this is, there is something that can block it. Fear. Fear is the final barrier. Not external obstacles, not lack of resources, but internal resistance. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of criticism, fear of uncertainty. These are the forces that stop people right before progress. Now understand this clearly. Fear is natural. It will appear, but it does not have to control you. Because fear grows when it is avoided and weakens when it is faced. Now think about this. Every time you delay, every time you hesitate, every time you step back, fear becomes stronger. But every time you act, even in a small way, fear loses its power. This is how you overcome it. Not by waiting for confidence, but by moving forward anyway. Now imagine this. You feel fear, but you act. You feel uncertainty, but you continue. You feel doubt, but you stay committed. And slowly, something begins to change. Fear becomes smaller. Confidence becomes stronger. Not because fear disappears, but because you no longer obey it. This is freedom. Now take a moment and reflect on everything. You started with a simple idea. Your thoughts matter. And step by step, you built something deeper. You learned how to direct your desire, how to build belief, how to control your thoughts, how to act, how to persist. And now you understand yourself differently. This is transformation. Not instant,
not dramatic, but real. Now here is the final truth. Everything you need is already within you. The ability to think, to decide, to act, to persist, and to grow. But ability alone is not enough. It must be used, consistently, intentionally, because your future is not something that happens to you. It is something you create, thought by thought, action by action, decision by decision. Now ask yourself one final question. Who are you becoming? Not who you were, not who you think you are, but who you are choosing to become, starting now. Stay with that question, because the answer is not in words, it is in action. It is in what you do after this moment. Now take one more deep breath and understand this. This is not the end. This is the beginning.